Hello everyone, in this video I would like to introduce you GitHub. GitHub is a website for many, but we can define it as a platform that allows you to upload your mostly codes, but any type of projects, and then allows you to track your changes as well as collaborate with other people. Most of the programmers or anyone who's doing anything related to programming uses that platform. That's why I think it's very important for you to learn. If you are ready, let's get started. Git or GitHub, by the way, let me first define those two. Git is the framework that we are using on GitHub. GitHub, as the name also suggests, it's a hub that's like the collect Git's framework for everyone. In this video, I will focus on Git on Visual Studio Code. You don't have to have Visual Studio Code. You can have your GitHub repository that doesn't even have to be a code, but it is used mostly for code. So you can have Git installation, Git usage without VS Code at all. But since most of my students are using Visual Studio Code, that's why I want to start through Visual Studio Code, because it can be quite challenging to understand the concepts of Git standalone for the new beginners. And I will show you how to set up Git on Visual Studio Code and how to use it, like upload your code to the cloud or make your uploaded code to come to your PC again. I will fix the terminology very soon, but this is what I'm aiming in this video. To understand Git, maybe I can tell you the three main purposes of why Git is even needed and why it is created. The first one is to keep your code safe on the cloud. The second one is to keep track of your changes on your code. And the third one is collaborate with other people. What do I mean with that? Let's say first, keep your code safe on the cloud. At the moment, you have only written your code on your PC. You haven't saved it anywhere outside your PC. But if you want to be secure, if something happens to your PC, you want to have it somewhere on the cloud. You might be using OneDrive, you might be using Dropbox, but they are very limited when it comes to or compared to what Git proposes you. First reason is when you want to have your code that is on your PC safe somewhere remote or on the cloud in case something happens to the hardware of your PC. The second reason is to keep a track of your changes. As I said, you might use OneDrive, you might use Dropbox or any other cloud services, but keeping track of your history is a little bit counterintuitive in those platforms, and it's not that visually helping, so to say. But when you are writing a code, for example, you wrote a code yesterday and then you thought that, oh yeah, some new ideas come to my mind today, and you add some stuff, but it's not there. And you want to see, what did I do yesterday? What lines I actually changed? Not the whole file copy, but just what I changed yesterday, what I changed the day before. So to keep a track of your changes, you can use Git. Since you are putting your code to the remote, although you can do it on your own PC as well, when you start using Git, the Git keeps the history of your changes. For example, you add one line of code on 21st of October, and then you removed another line of code on the 22nd of October. So you know which lines you put when and which lines you removed when. And another thing, it allows you to collaborate other people. Since you are able to put your code to the cloud by synchronizing it, other people can do that as well. Everyone can use the centralized remote, and everyone can add stuff and remove stuff. So you all use the same code and you all put your own contributions, and you always get the updated code whenever you want to synchronize it from the remote. So those three things are the main reasons why you might want to use Git: safety, keeping track of your changes, and for collaboration. But how does Git work? I put the synchronize arrow in the prior slides, but it is not actually how it happens. It is a little bit different there. Normally, when you write your code, you add some changes, and those changes, when you are done with whatever changes you want to do, you just commit, like making the brick of the next block, because in the end you are building a new structure. Your program is a big structure, right? So you are making it as like another stone to be added to the remote. And then when you are done with the committing, you just push your changes to remote. This is how you would synchronize in a way from your PC to the remote. But if you want to have the changes from remote to be on your PC, then we use the terminology pull, which means that whatever is on the remote, we pull those changes to our local PC. So when we are uploading to the remote, we add, commit, and push. From remote, we just pull. This is the steps for Git synchronization to work. When you have more people, then it is pretty much the same for them. They can add their changes, they commit those changes and push to the very same server, and they can pull from the same server to their PC. This is the one that allows you to collaborate at the same time on the same code. I'm not going to get into the details of commits and branches because I want this video to be as simple as possible. But when we are talking about gits and commits, we talk about the chain of the changes you have done in your repository. Repository means the folder that you keep your files. It can contain one file, just one single code, or it can be the whole folder that you keep, for example, all the lecture notes for one course or all the required codes for one project. So repository means your project or your folder. When you have a repository and all the changes are somehow linked in a commit chain, normally you have a main branch and you initialize like priorly what you want to have what the code you want to start. Maybe you have an empty folder and you want to create a new file and then continue. Or sometimes you just want to start that those are my necessary libraries. I will put them as my initial commit and I will start building up my project later on. So every change that you do is one commit and then they are connected to one to the other. That's why the difference between the commits will be the one showing you the changes that you did. That's why the Git is very powerful. You can also have different branches to test different things. For example, if you are making a game, you might want to have a GUI, graphical user interface, and you may want to do it in another branch without changing so much in it. Or you can just continue in one line, just the history of your code basically. But as I said, I don't want to go into the details of these in this video. To be able to use Git, we need to have an account on github.com. If you have an account, you can continue watching this video. But if you don't have an account, I want you to pause and go to github.com and then click this button to sign up. Fill the necessary informations. You need to put an email and password and a username and continue. When you have the GitHub account ready, you can continue watching this video. And also, as I said, for this video, I would like to focus on using Git on Visual Studio Code. I assume many of you have already have the Visual Studio Code. If not, please install the Visual Studio Code for your PC. Since I have my own GitHub account and I have my Visual Studio Code, I don't need to do any of these. I will just open the Visual Studio Code. If you have a folder on the left, it's not important. You can just close the folder or you can just file and new window. You will have the empty Visual Studio Code window in front of you. On the left here, that there's something called source control. We will be using that with GitHub, but first we need to log in our GitHub account on our Visual Studio Code. I would like to sign in. I will be using GitHub, and it opened a new window on my browser. If you are already logged in on your browser, it will find your username already. If not, it will ask you to log in on this browser to your GitHub account. Since I've been using my GitHub account on this browser, it finds my username, so I can just click continue. So now it asks me, yes, I have logged in. Would you like to start the Visual Studio Code? Yes, I would like to. Now you see there's some synchronization going on. Since I have been using Visual Studio Code and my GitHub before, there's some synchronization going on. Maybe for you it's not gonna happen, but maybe it will do it. I'm not sure. But just wait until the synchronization view is gone. Okay, now since I am logged in my GitHub account, I can actually open a folder and upload it to my GitHub account. I would like to open a folder that I want the projects to be on GitHub. As I said, you can choose one single file or you can choose the whole folder if you want to. I highly suggest you to choose a project folder if you are planning to make a project, or otherwise choose the whole lecture folder if you want to keep track of your lecture. Any folder you might choose would work in here. I would like to open my Python folder. And when I select the folder, all my files up in here. I don't have any source control stuff appeared in there because I haven't connected this folder to any GitHub repositories. To do that, I will go to source control and I would like to initialize repository here. Since I initialize the repository, this means that we would like to now add, commit, and push. So in here, either I can add single files or I can add everything together. I added all the changes. Now I need to commit, but to commit, I need to write a message here. My initial commit. I can now commit. And I need to publish to the branch, which means sending our local changes to the cloud. The extension wants to use GitHub. I would like to allow that, and it asks only once. And I need to authorize the Visual Studio Code for that. Now it has been authorized, and I can go back to my Visual Studio Code. Now you need to choose if it's going to be a public repository or private repository. The public repository, it means that your code can be searched and found by everyone online. Private repository is only you and the people that you share this repository have access. I would like to share it as a public repository. Now you see it is publishing to GitHub. Probably you can't see. Now you see that it is successfully published in my username and the folder Python. If you want, you can just open it on GitHub. You see all my files and folders are in here on GitHub, my username and my folder name. So everything is on cloud now. If I delete the folder, it will not be a big problem. I can always pull from this repository. Let me put this side by side and see what happens when we want to edit some files. By the way, this is my commit chain and it's going to be updated as I do some changes. But let's go back to the Explorer. And I would like to create a new file here. Let's say this file is going to be my test.py. And I would like to print something in here. Test, for example. I have saved my changes and the name of this file is green. And there is letter U. This U means unstaged changes, which means that yes, you have edited this in your local PC, but you haven't updated this to the cloud yet. And yes, I haven't seen any test on the right side. What I need to do is to, when I'm done with my changes, when I would like to synchronize it with the cloud, I will go back to source here, source control, and that there is one change that is a pending change that is not being pushed to the cloud. Now I can say that, what is this change? First, I need to add either all or just this file. So now these are staged. A, it means it is added. I need to say what I changed in here. Test created. I have to always have a message before I commit. Now I can commit. You see, now my history chain is updated. Initially, my initial commit, and now new one is test created. But I am still not seeing anything. I can show you by refreshing anything regarding the test. This was from before. What I need to do is to synchronize changes. This action will pull and push commits from and to origin. It says both pull and push because you cannot just push without seeing what is there on your remote. I'm gonna first pull. I will get the changes from the cloud, and I will push. I will put your changes to the cloud. Okay, I agree, and I would like to push the changes. Now my commit is updated. Let's see. My test py is here, so everything is online. And you see my test print.test. So now another thing I would like to show you is to see what has been changed from before. I would like to add another print, new line, let's say. And this time, green line showing me that this line is new in your local, but it is not there on your cloud yet. What you need to do is to, if you want to see this on the remote, again, we need to add. And I'm not sure, for example, I'm adding, but what I have changed from before. You can always go and click the test, and you see what are the things that has been added and what are the things that has been removed. I'm going to show that one too as well. So I'm happy with the changes. I have added them. I need to commit. I say new line added. I give a note to myself to see what I have done on my history chain. I can commit, and I can stage changes. I don't want to press OK every time. I'm happy with pull and push every time, so I will click OK, don't show again. Nice. So I see that new changes on my project is new line edit. If I refresh my page on the cloud, I see the changes online as well. So now whoever goes to my repository or this online folder wants to use my code, they can just go to code, and they can either download the whole folder as a zip, or they can use their terminal to git clone this repository. I will show this one by the end of the video as well. So now I would like to show you how it shows when you remove something. If I go back to my files and if I want to change something in here and remove the whole line, you see that the removed line is not showing anything, but this blue highlight at the beginning of the line shows that you have changed something locally, and just see that I'm tracking your changes. And I also want to add another file. Let's say I will go to my Explorer and I'm going to create another file, let's say called test2.py this time. And I would like to add some other things, print other things. In here, test.py says it is modified. Test2.py says it is unstaged because this is a new file. This file exists on the cloud, but it is modified. Those are the way of GitHub telling you something has changed. And if you see on my source control, there are 2 changes that are unstaged. I can just go to source control and see the changes. I would like to add both modification and also the new file. And you remember you can add all by just clicking plus sign. Now I have added them, so I don't want to remove them. But if you did something wrong, you can always remove it and then you can edit if you want. So you can select whatever changes you want to upload the cloud yet, especially when you are doing a project. If you are working in one file and then there's another file, but you want to just upload one of them, you can do that. If you go to the file itself, you see all the changes. The red one means that you removed this. The green one means that you edit this. And this index is the one that's showing you from index. Your actual files are here. Yes, I am happy with those changes. Then I can commit. If I press commit, it will not work because you need to add a message. That's why I want to just go back and I want to add my message here. Let's say test2 created, test1 modified. It is better to be both concise, like a short message, but also descriptive enough for you to see what is going on later on. I'm happy with my commit message and I commit it. And now I need to synchronize those changes to see if my test.py, test2.py shows up on the right hand side or in my cloud as well. So I can refresh. And test.py is also updated with the content, print other things. So far so good. But what if something changed on the cloud? Either your colleague has updated the remote or something that you decided that is not actually needed. For example, you go to test.py and you think that actually you don't need this file, or maybe you want to edit this file. I can say print from cloud. You can do the changes on the browser as well, although it doesn't have a built-in Python installation, so you can't run it, but you can do the changes. And in here it is the same thing that is happening on the left hand side. You just need to write a print for your commit message and you can directly commit changes like you do on the left. The online part updates immediately. It doesn't have those several steps, or it doesn't show those steps at least. But when you are here, if you want to get the changes, let me close those things and go back to my Explorer, because now I will see some changes from test.py. To see those changes, I need to go down and synchronize the changes from my Git. The synchronization is done. If I go to test2, I see the things that my colleague did or I have done on the browser. So this is the way how it's synchronized. So at this step, we know when we open a folder and write a code in it, how we can initialize our GitHub repository, how we add files, commit messages, and push our changes to remote. Also, we know how to get the changes from the remote. There's one last thing I wanted to show you, is to clone a repository. Let's say you don't have anything on your PC, you have it only on the remote. It can be from like you are doing a project together with a friend and that friend created the files on his PC or her PC and then push it to remote, and you want to get this project files on your PC so that you start collaborating together. Let me show this part as well. On my file explorer, where I have those files in my PC, for me it was documents and Python folder. In the beginning, there are only those folders, but after I initialized it created a new hidden file. You see it's a little bit faded color compared to other regular ones. So this Git folder is the one keeps the track of your repository. Please do not delete this one. If you delete this one, you will not be able to track your changes. But what I'm gonna do now is, let's say I do not have this folder, and I will delete this folder now, as if now it is used. So let me just close this one and try again. So now I don't have the folder. It can be my project folder or any repository that I'm trying to clone from GitHub. What I can do is to open a Visual Studio Code, a new window, and you can clone a Git repository here. I would like to put this on the side so that you will see what is going on also in my documents here. Click this clone Git repository. And we need to select which repository we want. It's gonna be through GitHub. It is going through all my repositories here. At the top is the one that is recently used, which is the Python repository that I want to have. I will click this one. And I need to choose where I want it to be. You can choose wherever you want. For me, I would like to have it in my documents and select as repository destination. And now I would like to open the clone repository either here or a new window. This was a new window, so I will just choose here. If I refresh on the right hand side, by the way, you see this folder now is cloned from GitHub. And you see all my files in Visual Studio Code in here with all the changes that were updated on the cloud. So this cloning a repository is used a lot among many programmers. I hope this was a good and useful start for you. Git can be quite confusing later on, especially when you are collaborating and two people work on the same file and do changes on the same line. That can be some merge conflicts. But this is a little bit more complex subject. That's why I would like to take it in another video. Thank you for watching and see you in the next videos.